Okay, why don't we go ahead and get started. If anyone does experience any trouble through the meeting, we do have Jane Shim, who is on the meeting. Feel free to send a message using the chat function. I do want to mention that everyone except both Katherine Rowell and myself are currently muted. So if you need to ask any questions, as you can see in the participant panel, everyone is muted. If you need to unmute yourself, just go ahead and click on the microphone that's currently red, and it will change from red to, I believe, gray or green, which will allow you to speak. All right. Well, thank you for joining us. I'd like to get started and just kind of introduce both Kathy and myself. I'm a project manager at the Social Science Data Analysis Network at or otherwise known as SSDAN at the University of Michigan. We are part of Michigan's Institute for Social Research, and we try to make social data a little bit more accessible, especially for youth in education. I'm very thrilled to be able to introduce Katherine Rowell, who's a professor of sociology at Sinclair Community College in Dayton, Ohio. But that seems to be one of her many hats, and I seem to learn more and more about her as we spend more time together. In addition to being a professor of sociology, she's director of her college's Center for Teaching and Learning. She's served as the president of the North Central Sociological Association. I believe her term ended about this time last year. She's won numerous awards for teaching excellence, including the 2005 Outstanding Community Colleges Professor of the Year from the Carnegie and Case Foundations. Professor Rowell has been chosen in the past for a Fulbright group study abroad trip to Botswana, Swaziland, and South Africa to develop curriculum for the Midwest Institute for International Education. And Professor Rowell has been a very active member of the teaching community since 1996, which led us to cross paths in the early part of last decade, as she was part of the Integrating Data Analysis Project, which was a joint project between SSDAN and the American Sociological Association. And I think she's going to speak a little bit more about that later, but I would just like to offer my greatest appreciation that she was willing to lead the session today.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction. You always sound better when someone else introduces you. I'm really excited to be part of this presentation, and I wanted to know real quick, I see that we have Glenwood Ross and Sean Williams logged in. I did want to know if you want to take a minute to briefly introduce yourself and what do you do?
Feel free to unmute yourself if you want to. If you'd like to just you know, stay anonymous, you can.
That was nice of JP. I was hoping to see what you were hoping. I was hoping to see what you might want out of this workshop. So if you have a chance, it always helps if you even want to just send us a note. That would be great. So, well, we'll go ahead and get started then.
Well, I did want to quickly go over an overview of what we hope to cover during this webinar today. We'll cover a little bit more about what SSDAN is. I know I briefly brought it up during the introductions. As I mentioned, there was an integrating data analysis project that was a joint project with ASA. We're going to talk a little bit about that and the value of integrating data analysis into your course. And Kathy is going to get into a few things regarding pedagogical practice regarding teaching with contingency tables. She's also going to get into some of the in-class preparation that you should really plan for ahead of actually having students working with some of these contingency tables. We're going to quickly run you through how to use DataCounts, how you can find some of the data sets and modules there. And we're going to finally finish up with some a run-through of an activity. So just to give a little bit of background about SSDAN and DataCounts, SSDAN is the Social Science Data Analysis Network. It was founded by our still director, Bill Fry, who's a demographer and professor of sociology, who is really surprised that social science students weren't learning to work with data, really from their introductory courses. He recognized that majors were waiting until their senior year really before taking methods and statistics courses, which are really, in his mind, he saw these as critical courses for helping students to understand how the research takes place, and pushing that these disciplines are scientific disciplines. So waiting until their final semesters to take these courses, students really seem to be developing a level of anxiety when it came to working with data, which was really problematic. So he started SSDAN in 1995 to try to work on this head on, and really the goal was to put data in the hands of students early and often, which is, I believe, one of the lines that ASA uses now, and really to make social data more accessible in general as well. DataCounts is one of our websites, which we will talk a little bit more about later. But that's kind of our repository, our main repository, where we have somewhere in the area of 100 different learning modules that have been authored by instructors, many of them who are involved in that integrating data analysis project with ASA. And in addition to those learning modules, we have somewhere in the area of, I think, 3,000 repackaged data sets. We call them repackaged because they have been we've tried to distill some key variables and from much larger data sets that you might be familiar with, such as the American Community Survey, the Decennial Census, the Current Population Survey, and the General Social Survey. So we've tried to take some of those well-known studies and try to distill them down to something that a student can work with in a single class period. Something, limiting it down to maybe, say, 5 variables with no more than 9 or so categories per variable.
So I thought I'd talk a little bit about my school, Sinclair Community College, is in Dayton, Ohio. We are a very large community college. We have 27,000 students. And we happen to have a sociology department. That you won't find that to be true at all community colleges. But in around the year 2000, 2001, we applied and were selected to participate in an NSF-funded project on integrating data analysis early and often in the sociology curriculum. And we were the only community college that participated in that project. All the rest of them were liberal arts institutions and universities. And you can read about that. You'll see there's a link to the article that we can send you later. But there was actually a study done of that, and I can talk just a little bit about it because I think it's important. What we did is we took all our full-time faculty to a summer institute sponsored by University of Michigan and SSDAN, where our faculty had the opportunity to work together for 1 week and develop modules, and you'll find many of our modules on the SSDAN website, and I have quite a few. Then we came back and used it for actually a year, and then we continue to use this. We developed pre and post measurements of quantitative literacy in our courses, and we really were quite successful. I have always, in my teaching, integrated data analysis in the introductory sociology course, and I've had the opportunity to teach at several types of institutions. I currently, even though I teach full-time at a community college, I'm teaching an introductory sociology course at a private liberal arts institution and testing similar material. And I find